much fun.
Hello and welcome to a reading of Walter Meets Mack, a Minnesota Adventure. And I'm Michael Stoesz, I'm the author. And we are standing on the Stoesz Bridge, a well-known landmark in Minneapolis. And in fact, the Stoesz Bridge is a relic from the time and the setting that my book was written. The setting of this book is the year 1900, and the Stoesz Bridge would have been well known to people in Minneapolis. And in fact, on the back of the cover here is a wonderful illustration by my artist, Allison Healy, who did all the illustrations in this book. And you can see kind of how the skyline of the year 1900 matches up to the skyline of today. I'm going to read from Chapter 1 today. Chapter 1, Way-Worn Walter. 16-year-old Walter Meets was perched on a suitcase outside the Milwaukee Road train station in Minneapolis. His chin rested on his fist. He was having himself a think. Last night on the train, a thief had relieved him of the money that he had thought was safely stashed in his boot. One of the shifty crew of travelers sharing the train compartment, dusty fellows not unlike him, was no doubt the culprit. When he reached into his boot and found only his foot, his heart sank into his stomach. He searched the floor around the bench and came up with dust. What to do? The money represented his start in Minnesota. How disappointed his parents would be. Looking at the faces of the other passengers, he saw only strangers. Now arriving at his destination, he was greeted by a stink like spoiled fish coming in on a breeze from the nearby Mississippi River. That bad smell reached some part of his brain, even though the rest of him wasn't quite thinking straight. After many days of travel, Walter knew that he stank too. He had no money. His belly groaned with hunger. On the river of life, floating downstream to an unknown place, he had hit a snag. Walter sat outside the depot, dazed and confused. He needed to come up with a plan. He'd made it to Minnesota, but he might as well be on the moon. What now? Zoom! A boy in a bicycle zipped by, his cap pulled low over his eyes, and a canvas bag of newspapers slung over his shoulder. Why, you hooligan? Stop scorching up the sidewalk, yelled a man at the cyclist in English, a language Walter didn't know. Riding a bicycle looked like lots of fun, and Walter made a promise to himself to someday get his own and learn how to ride. All around him, the world was humming with activity. The banging sounds of huge railroad cars moving about the train depot, loud voices of people going about their business, horse-drawn wagons clopping by, and behind the depot, a low thumping of machinery coming from the mills along the river. An electric streetcar rolled to a stop, and a crowd of passengers got off expertly, some stepping right into a fast walk before the trolley came to a complete halt. The people flowed around Walter without giving him so much as a glance. Horse-drawn wagons were normal in Finland, but modern streetcars were totally new to a boy from the country. He felt as if he had one foot in the old world and one foot in the new. Plop! A white splat of bird poop landed squarely on his knee, punctuating his present state of misery. A second later, a bug flew in between his teeth, and he realized he'd been breathing through his mouth. Bah! He spit out the bug and looked up beyond the red granite walls and arched doorway of the depot, up to the top of the tall clock tower where some suspicious-looking pigeons were sitting. Walter sat too in his own little bubble and reflected on the day a month ago now when his journey began at his family farm.